The United States of America is no longer respected. It is a complete faceplant, the suicide of a superpower. And the person that was elected to run this country waltzes over to the United Nations. The escalator breaks, his teleprompter breaks. He can't just be a leader and talk about all of the geopolitical issues facing us. He has to whine, complain, brag, and just be the absolute prick that he always is. He never disappoints with being disappointing. Let's play the first clip.
And it now, let's see, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration.
So there we go. Blowhard, he's so good at all this stuff. And then he tells the United Nations Assembly that everybody's countries are going to hell. This is what's so concerning about all of this is there's a whole generation of young Americans that he never speaks about other than wanting to force them to be patriotic, a la Stephen Miller, who said that he wants every American child to be raised and forced to love America. They're watching him, and this is their example of a leader. And how embarrassing for all of these people who really take seriously their jobs of governing their countries to walk in to the United Nations, which was probably a pretty cool trip back in the day, going to New York, going to the United Nations. And then this schmuck walks out there and acts like a total ass.
Well, and the thing about it is, I agree with you. A whole generation of people thinks that this bullying, demented person has something to say. I can't imagine that these leaders that are experts in foreign policy and authentically trying to govern are not like, how are Americans so stupid? I mean, I would have to think that they would be so concerned about this guy being the leader.
Well,
of a
and I think what it also does is any hope that we get to 2028,
right,
or that we get to 2026 and that there's a Congress that actually has guardrails and checks them. Do our allies really trust the American electorate? So it's not just that the country's reputation is on the line, but the damage of this, because it happened twice with this guy. Twice. And so if I'm a foreign policy decision maker in the European Union or with some of our allies in Asia, I'm going to say, well, we can't trust the Americans.
Right.
Their electorate is stupid.
right.
You know, like they elected this guy twice. So they're not reliable, credible allies. And then here it goes again. Here he is. He is just wound up about wind. He talks about it all the time. He has about 10 things that he's capable of talking about. And of course, he makes an ass of himself, embarrasses himself. And there are like real scientists in these other countries. We fired all of ours. And then it leaves you with this.
States is now thriving like never before. We're getting rid of the falsely named renewables. By the way, they're a joke. They don't work. They're too expensive. They're not strong enough to fire up the plants that you need to make your country great. The wind doesn't blow. Those big windmills are so pathetic and so bad, so expensive to operate. And they have to be rebuilt all the time, and they start to rust and rot. Most expensive energy ever conceived. And
all right, this is the equivalent of an American president standing at the UN right before the personal computer came out, screaming and demanding he wants typewriters.
Absolutely.
That is the equivalency of what he's doing right now. So when he leaves this vacuum here, it's going to get filled. And capitalism is going to go on and find a more stable government for it to grow. And we are going to be left behind. And all of these corporations that bend the knee to him are so short-sighted. They are so incredibly short-sighted that they value a short-term gain from him, currying favor, playing crony capitalism, and they will dismantle democracy because of that.
Well, and you think about, like, I don't know why he gets stuck on wind. I don't know if it's the big oil connection or whatever, but
that's what it is.
You think?
There's no question.
So he's wanting the big oil, whatever. But like you said, we're not only getting left behind in energy, we're getting left behind because You can't trust the American brand, the American dollar, the American legal system. I mean, the suicide of a superpower is exactly what it is. And I think it's so important when you say people do not want to do business in a country that does not have laws, that is not dependable to enforce their laws. And we're there.
No, if you erode the courts, then where does a business take a contract to get it enforced? Where do they take it if the courts are eroded? The Supreme Court just eroded it itself. It just is standing there with a grenade like this, pulling it out, and we're all watching it. And one of the pillars of capitalism, which I think needs to be highly, highly regulated. I believe unregulated worship of capitalism led us to this moment because it leaves so many people behind. But that's another podcast episode. But we're going to have forms of capitalism in this country, and the people that are trying to protect it are killing it.
Right.
Because when you don't have a court and you don't have a judge that's honest, that you can take your contract in and get it enforced, investors will flee. The stock market is already starting to drop now. It's going to continue to drop. Investors are fleeing. Foreign investors are 100% fleeing. And I've got to say, I don't blame them. I don't blame our allies if they don't want to make deals with us because this man is an idiot. Watch this clip.
Border strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere.
I mean, this is breathtaking. I mean, this is an American president, and he's standing there acting like a total ass that just escaped the memory care wing of a nursing home. And all of his aides are sitting there and they're probably like high-fiving. I got on Twitter before I came in here, and the way it's pitched by all of his like little right-wing influencers, they do the like alarm emoji, and it's like, Trump is cooking at the UN. He's such a badass. And it's so crazy, the participation in this. I get a singular crazy person. I get it. We all have a singular crazy person in our life. I cannot believe the amount of Americans that are on board with this. I cannot believe the judges at the Supreme Court that are on board with this. I cannot believe the Republicans who I disagree with policy wise, but believed in decorum, believed in professionalism on the international stage, and they won't say one word about this, not one word. Fox will take a victory lap tonight and somehow think that this elevates the United States and makes us look cool. And it's quite the opposite.
I've already seen clips of Fox. The majority leader in the Senate is saying that Trump goes to the UN and speaks unvarnished truth. And Marco Rubio is applauding the attack with illegal immigration on a global stage. And he's so proud of Trump. And I just think, you are so stupid. Truth and Trump, first of all, that's an oxymoron. And of all the people on planet Earth, Marco Rubio should know better, and he doesn't. And I don't know if it's because he loves power or he thinks he's going to be the next authoritarian, but he is a case study in just absolute failure.
Well, I think that we've seen this a lot in history. You see that when the strong man is elevated, then there's moral collapse surrounding him. And the people who had courage, the people who have conviction, they left Trump and they called him a Nazi. They said he was like Hitler. And these are right wingers that were around him in Trump 1.0. Those that remain have to have been always morally compromised. Otherwise, you don't find yourself in this. In the case of Marco Rubio, one could opine that perhaps he comes from a family of immigrants. His name is Marco Rubio, which is now becoming a very common American thing to have, Latino names that are a part of the American culture, which I support. But clearly there's some sort of self-loathing on his part to then go out and speak against immigrants. The same thing with Rafael Ted Cruz. You think that these people would be the biggest proponents of having an immigration system that was kind and didn't ship people off to Alligator Alcatraz and go arrest people on construction job sites, arrest them at Home Depot. And now they're disappearing people. Like there's 1,800 people that are just off the grid missing from Alligator Alcatraz. There's a bunch of other people that are just off the grid missing that are going on airplanes to Ghana, where they have zero tie to. It's just unbelievable. And Marco Rubio sits there and acts like he's just big Christian, and he's not. He is just an ass kisser. He is the exact same guy that fluffs a penis in a porn. He keeps Trump hard. That's all these people do. It makes me crazy. All right, now here's Trump. Putin, as you know, Trump did everything for him in Alaska. Everything he wanted. Putin had his moment. And just think about what a signal that was to all of our allies. Think about all the people that Putin has killed. I think about Alexei Navalny and how Putin killed him. I think about all the courage he had. I think about all the oligarchs that have been kicked out of windows. I think about the erosion of human rights. I think about the erosion of their court system. I think about the erosion of their elections. And Kanks rolls out like we have this big ally coming to town in Alaska. He rolls it out, embarrasses himself, our country, and the troops. After that complete death knell to Russia, Vladimir Putin said, fuck you, and he escalated everything. It takes Kanks a while to figure out that somebody doesn't give a shit about him and that somebody played him and somebody wants to break up with him. He's now coming to the acceptance stage of this. I don't know how long he'll stay here because I fundamentally believe that Putin has the compromat on him, which is the Russian word for he has him compromised. But here he is telling French President Emmanuel Macron that he and Putin didn't have the relationship he thought they had.
The biggest disappointment, but I think that'll happen eventually, is the Ukraine and Russia situation. But we've settled. I thought that was going to be the easiest one because of my relationship with Putin, but unfortunately that's it. Relationship didn't mean anything, unfortunately. But when I needed some advice and when I needed some help in terms of a country in that part of the world, you were always there, and you helped me settle some of these 7 wars.
Pause it real quick. Right here, he's telling Emmanuel Macron how much he helped him settle the 7 wars. Before Kylie presses play, I want you, every viewer and listener, to focus on Macron as Trump just sits there and lies to his face. All right, continue the video.
Proud of the 7 wars, but you helped me settle them, and I appreciate that.
I mean, it's stunning. He's sitting there like going, it's one of those shocking moments where you're like, is he for real? Is he colluding me into this lie that he solved 7 wars, which we all know he didn't? And then he's sitting there talking about Putin, and he's finally realizing they didn't have the relationship he thought they had. Hillary Clinton knew that in 2016, dipshit.
Here's the thing. He sounds like a jilted lover to me. I mean, his feelings are hurt. There was genuine emotion. He thought that was his BF, and he's hurt. And that just goes back to, this is the dumbest motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah. Dumb and dangerous.
Dumb and dangerous.
Okay. And then here's the last little excerpt I want to show you guys on why corporate America won't stand up to him. Corporate leaders openly admit that they will side with authoritarianism over democracy if democracy might produce policies they don't like. Kathy Wild, this is from Politico. Kathy Wild is the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City, a nonprofit organization that represents the city's top business leaders, said Republicans have told her the threat to capitalism from the Democrats is more concerning than the threat to democracy from Trump. And there it is. Leave that up for just a second, Kylie. That is stunning. That is so stunning that these business leaders, these Republican business leaders who have been able to game the system, who the system was set for them to excel, a system that never forced them from a legal standpoint to pay their workers a livable wage, to provide benefits such as health care and dental care and child care for their workers, as these guys have gotten record profits. They will take their customer base and their workers and the country and wad it up and flush it down the toilet, because I want to quote this again. The threat to capitalism from Democrats is more concerning than the threat to democracy from Trump. And these are the people like at the end of the day, the Latinos for Trump, I end up having some empathy for because I don't want to see their families separated, even though I think they were dipshit voters. My progressive spirit causes me, after initially going, God damn it, going, that's really sad. These people right here, you're going to fuck around and you're going to find out. You're not going to have a court to take your contract to have it enforced. You're not going to have a company unless you go curry favor with the president and throw a bunch of money at all of his interests. And if it's not Kanks, then it's going to be Little Smoky. It's going to be somebody. And the fact that they're so brazenly selfish tells me one thing. As a country, we have always consistently valued capitalism and the individual way more than we ever have collective good and collectivism. And that has come back to bite us in the ass. That's why when you see happy factors, when they study the global happy factors, countries in Scandinavia that invest in their people and teach a brand of collectivism and take care of their sick and take care of their poor, and they have a larger social safety net, their happy factor is much higher. In the United States, the happy factor is completely off the cliff. Now I bet we're dead last. And this is something that you fundamentally have to understand about American culture. American culture values money over everything else. And Donald Trump is the manifestation of that sin, of valuing money for some over the welfare and well-being of the community.
I almost think, I mean, some of these business leaders because they prefer the American electorate dumb and sick and poor because that just means more for them.
How are people going to buy stuff from them?
I don't know.
I mean, if you erode the middle class and you erode the working class and you erode the rule of law and you go all chips in on this dictator, at some point that is not sustainable. It's a very short-sighted proposal when you plummet your customer base.
Right. I mean, look at Russia. Their economy is tank nation.
Right.
And, I don't know what they're thinking. I just find it you get everything you've ever wanted. You win at capitalism. You are so rich. And you sit around, Jeff Bezos comes to mind, you're billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, but you don't want your workers to be part of a union because you don't want them to have benefits. I mean,
I think we're saying the same thing. I think this is a symptom of American culture where we have been taught and propagandized, and it's a big, big thing in our culture to value money and to automatically respect a rich person, even though that rich person might be a piece of shit, a la Elon Musk. People give rich people a lot of deference that they don't deserve. And so anyway, I just think this is all terribly sad. It's heartbreaking as an American to see Trump on the global stage like that. And just what a laughing stock we are.
total.
It's just
laughing stock.
it's just a death knell of epic proportion. And I think what we're going to see after this is allies fleeing, investors fleeing, and this is just going to keep going because God knows if you said that Senate leader said that about his speech,
Unvarnished truth.
it's just that's breathtaking.
Mhm.
All right, that's all we have. We'll be back later today with more news. We'll see you then.